Hello, and thanks for listening to your SCAMLE's exclusive podcast, ExplorED. On these episodes, you will enjoy exclusive interviews with some names you recognize and some people you'll be meeting for the first time. In each of our episodes, we will ask you to think and grow and reflect as a professional educator. If you aren't yet a member of SCAMLE, we encourage you to join today. More information can be found at www.scamle.org. There, find out more information about membership, conferences, and professional development opportunities. And don't forget to join us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. My name is Sarah Evanson Atkinson, and I serve as the Professional Development Director for your SCAMLE. I am an educator of 21 years and a past SCAMLE president as well. During this podcast episode, I had the opportunity to talk with Dr. Jamela Coase. You might remember her from the 2021 SCAMLE conference. During our conversation here, we found ourselves focused upon the idea of inclusion and inclusivity, but not in the way you're imagining. See, I'm the kind of parent who teaches that grades are important, but being kind and empathetic is even more so. During our time together, we covered the ground of inclusiveness within the bounds of all things education. But I found myself wondering about how I make other professionals feel included and more than enough in my daily interactions. Talk about a moment for reflection. Are you as inclusive, empathetic, and gentle with others as you'd like to be? Please help me welcome Dr. Jamela Coase to this ExplorED podcast.
I am delighted to be joined today with Dr. Coase, and I'm going to let her introduce herself in just a moment, but you're going to recognize her voice from our conference that happened recently, and I hope you have very fond memories of your time with us. So Dr. Coase, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah. It is so great to be back with you, to be back with the listeners. Thank you for being here. Thank you for engaging in conversation. Thank you for thinking about equity, social justice, all of the things that we know are important to our society, especially as it relates to our learners with disabilities who are often an afterthought in education. So I'm Dr. Jamela Coase. I am a professor at the University of Georgia, and I'm also the director of teacher leadership at Mount Holyoke College. In both spaces, my work is laser focused on equity and social justice, thinking about how do we create the most inclusive society. So even beyond what we have done, the many strides we've made toward inclusion, how can we make it even more inclusive? So I'm glad to be here with you today.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to have you. We'll jump right into it because there's so much to talk about in so limited time. But during the past school year, a lot of parents and caregivers and really outspoken community members have expressed some serious concern about special education services for students during all this big time of change. So changes in location, changes in delivery models, changes in technology. And, frankly, it's really difficult for special educators to hear those messages when they legitimately are physically, mentally, and spiritually simply exhausted. Mm-hmm. So, it's hard to really be able to accept criticism sometimes when you're saying to yourself and to everyone who will listen, I'm doing the very best I can. I don't know what more to do. There's only so many hours in the day. So what would you say to these folks with these outcries, and how would you respond to them?
And we're talking to, what would I say to parents? What would I say to teachers? Because everybody's out crying.
Oh, no, you're right. Absolutely. Everybody is out crying. But I guess let's talk about what you would say to the parents, because parents, I think, it weighs heavy on them. I'm a mom and I want to protect my babies. Yeah. And if they're not getting the best of the best of the best, well, I'm going to go and hunt that for them. And so what do you say to those folks who are like, look, can you guys step up and do what you're supposed to do? What do you say to them?
It is tough. And it is tough because I am a parent and an educator. And so in full disclosure, I will say this, right? So I was that parent, like, what are you doing? Even though I know how difficult this is for teachers, I was still like, my child needs this thing right now. So I'd like to apologize to her teachers publicly right now. I'm really sorry. But what I would say,
I got to tell you, I consistently say, I preface all of my emails to my kids' teachers by saying, I don't want to be that parent, but here goes nothing. I mean,
But
but
here's the-
so I don't know what else.
and you are exactly that parent. I know. I feel okay. So I am sorry to her teachers. Please accept my sincerest apologies. What I would say to parents is we are facing something we have never faced ever. No one has ever been down this path. There is no playbook at all. Like there are few suggestions, right, for what could possibly work well. So what I would say to parents in this moment right now is to be patient, just a little patient, right? Because you don't want to not advocate for your child. I would never ever encourage any parent to not advocate for their child. But what I would encourage is just like a little bit of grace, a little bit of time, and maybe a little bit at a time, right? Acknowledging that it's a process and helping teachers to know what are the most pressing and concerning issues for you. And what do you think needs to happen first? Because it can't all happen right now. Like we are just at a capacity that like everybody's getting something, but everybody's definitely not getting everything that they need. And everybody, I think we all recognize that. But I would share with the teacher, what is your most pressing concern? If of all of your list of things, what is the number one? What can they do right now to help alleviate some of what you're feeling and what your students are or what your children are feeling? Yeah, they are absolutely, they are far more resilient than we are. They have seen, they are able to see so much that we are not able to see, and they are able to create and think about this situation very differently. They're like, hey, these are the cards that were dealt. We're going to make it happen. Like, we're going to learn what we can learn. We're going to do what we can do. We're going to grow in places that we may not have otherwise grown, right? So they are using this opportunity in very unique ways. So what I have loved is that what is currently happening, like the pandemic has allowed for people to show their excellence in various ways. So I've had the opportunity to work with students who have built their own businesses, who have started their own tutoring services they have disabilities themselves, and they have been able to learn to connect with other people with disabilities and create communities, which would not have happened, which the time may not have allowed for during COVID. Parents have been able to connect with each other. And I think that one of the other things that parents can do right now in this moment is to connect with other parents and learn as much as you can. Right? Learn as much as you can about your child, their disability, the services that can be provided for them. Learn about what's happening in your state as it relates to the money that is coming in, and think about ways to suggest what you think should be done with the money, because lots of districts are getting money from the government in the CARES Act that can be used specifically to create a more inclusive environment for your child. So learn about those things, use that time to focus on like structural things as much as you can, and be an advocate and a voice in that space, and don't let up. Remember, one step at a time. So it's sort of living in dual spaces.
Absolutely. What would you say to those people who are just feeling like, if I'm on another Google Meet, if I'm on another Zoom call, I don't know if I can do it. I know. And see, here's the thing that I guess gets me is that the teachers are well aware that we can't do 100% for everybody what we quote normally would do. They're well aware of it. And I think people think we don't know.
I had a parent, it was curriculum night because my parent teacher conference is coming up this week. Y'all pray for my child's teachers. But so on curriculum night though, I had a lot of questions, right? But what disarmed me from asking like a million questions in that moment was the teacher said, this has been a really hard year. We are having a really tough time.
Yeah.
We are trying our best. And I think that people hearing that, they are sort of like, okay, I can chill a little bit. Like, sure. I get it.
Sure.
So, and I think that there's sometimes a climate in education where teachers always have to be like, oh, everything's happy, everything's bubbly, everything's going to be, actually, no, that can be harmful too, right? Absolutely. So I think when people understand the reality that you are actually faced with, they can be a little bit more understanding and give a little bit more grace. Now, should they have to understand all of those things in order to give more grace? Maybe not. But I think that's just part of everybody trying to get the things that they need, especially when it comes to their children, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Following along that same line of thinking, how do you think educational leaders then can support their special education teachers to be empowered and to be effective?
This is a big question. Okay. So part of it is that special education teachers, I think sometimes I think they don't realize just how much like they can do. And I say that speaking from experience. So I was a special education teacher. So I came right out and I went straight into the classroom as a special education teacher. And my scope was sort of limited to what I had learned in college, as well as what I had experienced during my teaching. What I learned over the years was that there's so much more. And there's so many different ways to do things. And I think that if leaders empower their special education teachers to learn from other people, to learn from other spaces, and to think about how to do things differently and ask for their feedback, like how can we do this thing differently? It empowers special education teachers to say, there might be something that we can do differently, and there might be something that we should do differently, because that's really why special education was created, right? Not only was it created as an avenue to be more inclusive, it was also created as an avenue to do what was right by children and to do things differently and to be able to have funding to do things differently.
Right.
So I think that leaders, their job is to empower special education teachers to do that, ask for that feedback, ask for their expertise, help them learn, give them space to grow and learn as well.
So shifting a little bit, now a lot of people don't think about gifted students when we're talking about special education. Mm-hmm. But gifted students, I'm the mom of, I have 3 very wildly different children. So my oldest is qualified for the gifted program, and he clearly is a gifted child. And there are things that he needs in school and in his classes to challenge him to grow. Otherwise, he gets stagnant and he gets cranky. And there are things that happen with him academically when he's not pushed. And so I wonder how, in your opinion, what's the connection there between some of the special education work that we're talking about here and this inclusivity, and then, gifted kids, we don't talk about them a whole lot.
I hope listeners, and if you're not listeners, like if you're not familiar with the Universal Design for Learning, I want you to get real familiar with the Universal Design for Learning, because what the Universal Design for Learning it invites people with all sorts of exceptionalities into a space of learning. So whether you are ready for quantum physics at the highest level, or if you are a person who is beginning calculations, whatever it is, wherever you are, the Universal Design for Learning invites you into a space where you can grow and think dynamically about your learning. So I encourage you to look at the Universal Design for Learning. And as I say that out loud, there are online communities that specifically talk about the Universal Design for Learning for learners. What I love also about the Universal Design for Learning is that it also invites the perspective, like it thinks specifically about that child, their learning styles, their learning interests, their areas of where they like the areas that they're of strength, their areas of opportunity. And it takes all of that and encompasses it to create something for that child where they can learn, grow, be successful. So my daughter has been designated as gifted. And one thing that I recently learned about her learning, or something that I've always known about her learning, but something that I wanted to make sure that she embodied, is that while you may be an exceptional learner, she's exceptional academically, I never want her to think that people who do not have that same academic gift are in any way deficient or in any way not as good as she is in any way.
Yes.
So I put her in positions and in spaces and in places so that she can see the value in all different types of learners. And I think that is where we have the most opportunity to help our gifted learners grow. And in addition to their academics, right? We help them grow in their humanity by allowing them opportunity and connection with people who don't learn like they do, who do things differently than they do. Yeah, I think we have a lot.
And I think that that's translated into more than just, I'm going to pair you up with someone who is not as sharp as you are, and I'm going to ask you to somehow give them the answers. It's not about that. It's about, like you said, about putting them in spaces and in situations where they can bear witness to the sort of divergent gifts that everybody has.
Exactly.
Just because this child can't read as well as you do doesn't mean that they're not a brilliant dancer or artist or whatever it is, that we all bring some kind of gift to the table.
You nailed it.
Yeah,
that's
there
it.
It is. There it is.
Exactly it. Wrap it up. That's it.
So we're about to wrap up and get your final thoughts on things. But so if you were to recommend one resource, only one, text, podcast, article, film, whatever, to our members, which would it be and why today?
Okay, this is the one I'm going to recommend. And I'm recommending this one because I believe that if you watch this one, it will have a ripple effect of like helping you to immerse yourself into thinking about disability differently.
Okay.
And this one resource is called Crip Camp. And Crip Camp is a documentary that goes through the disability rights movement, even into some present day things. But what it is rich with is a way of thinking about disability that we don't often think about in the mainstream to society and to bring to different communities. And I love it. I've seen it like 3 or 4 times. And every single time I watch it, I get more out of it. So Crip Camp would be the one documentary. It's on YouTube. It's like 1 hour and 47 minutes. Well worth every single second.
Final thoughts, Dr. Coase?
I have a friend, Josh Parker, who I do equity work with. And we do equity work in all sectors. And one thing that we always leave our conversations, like we always settle our conversations around, is the idea that Rome was not built in a day, but every single day a brick was laid. So when we're thinking about how to make spaces the most inclusive, we know it has to be a process. It's a step-by-step process. So what I encourage educators, what I encourage parents, what I encourage students, what I encourage community members, policymakers, one step at a time, but you have to take a step every day, something every day.